one of the greatest singles of the 1960s, John Lennon's Strawberry Fields Forever, a double A-side with McCartney's Penny Lane. The groundwork for Strawberry Fields had been laid out with the Revolver album, released only a few months prior on August 5th. Revolver had signalled a sea change in the music and outlook of the Beatles. Gone were the identikit, besuited Beatles, and in came a fresh, psychedelic, tinged artistry. Revolver took the idea of the studio as an instrument to new levels. Tracks like Tomorrow Never Knows created the blueprint for the future. Strawberry Fields Forever can, in hindsight, be seen as a logical step on from Revolver. It can now be seen as the perfect bridge between Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967. With Revolver out of the way, the Beatles embarked on one last tour. The Beatles, in a touring sense, were now over. The transition to fully fledged studio band began in London at EMI Studios in Studio 2 on Thursday, November 24th, 1966.
Well, I didn't learn until later that when John wrote the song originally, it didn't begin the way it began. We begin on our record with the chorus, but when I first heard it, he was singing the verse.
It started out with John, as always, playing the song to me, just sitting on I sat on a stool in front of him, he just sang it to me, strumming an acoustic guitar. And it was a very gentle song. It was a beautiful song, full of these wonderful word imagery, and I loved it. I thought it was great. When we came to do the actual track, and there was Ringo bashing away and John on his electric guitar, it became very much heavier than I thought. But, that was the way he wanted it, and that was the way it evolved. So we did the track, and we finished it.
And I thought it was terrific. And he came back and he said, "Look, George," he said, "it's great, but I think it can be better. Do you mind if we do it again?" I said, "Okay, give it another whirl. But what do you want that's different?" He said, "I'd like you to do a score. I'd like you to write some other instruments in it for me." I said, "What kind of thing?" He said, "Well, a bit of brass, a bit of strings, that kind of thing. You know what to do." So I went away and wrote a score. And when I did, I altered the pitch because I wanted to be able to use the bottom note of a cello, which is C. So I altered the score so that I could get that C. John came back and said, "It's pretty good, but there's still a lot of the old one I like." I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He said, "Well, can't you take the beginning of the old one and then the end of the new one?" Two things wrong with that, John. That is, they're in different keys and they've got different tempos. And he looked at me over his spectacles and he said, "I'm sure you can fix it." And I thought, "You devil." He just walked away from me. You expect miracles as a standard, And I looked at it and I thought about it. And of course, God was helping me in a way because the faster one was also the sharper one. And by adjusting the speeds of the two, I could get them almost in line with each other from a rhythmic point of view. I got them in line with each other from a tone point of view. And I cut the two together. And the cut I can hear in my sleep. I know exactly where it is. It sticks out like a sore thumb. But most people don't know. And when John heard it, he said, "You see, I told you. I knew you could do it." And he just regarded it as normal. You can do that kind of thing. But it was a question of getting hold of a bit of tape and with a pair of brass scissors cutting it and joining it up again. Nowadays, you don't have to do that. And it's wonderful.
Listen to it objectively. And it takes till about now, say, to really listen to it and understand what you're really talking about.